Welcome to the Run for God Run Club, where you will find God in a runner's space.
Welcome to the Run for God Run Club. This is your one stop each week to be motivated and inspired to get off the couch and onto the running trail, where you can in turn inspire others to do the same. Let's learn, laugh, and leap into running together, giving God the glory for what we are able to do in His name. Amen. I am your running host, Dean Thompson, and we're going in a little bit different direction today. I am joined with a fellow by the name of John Spider Sillery, good friend of mine. He's a emergency room doctor here in Chattanooga. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He does a little bit of not just doctoring, but chiropractic work. He's done some acupuncture and some other things. We won't get into all of that. But needless to say, he has spent some time studying some things that are outside of his normal profession. And one of those things is nutrition. Nutrition obviously is important to all of us. It's super, super important to Spider. And so he's going to share some of the things about nutrition from his point of view, from a doctor's point of view. Now, I'll start this whole thing off by saying my thoughts on nutrition and Spider's thoughts on nutrition are not the same. And that's okay. And part of what you'll hear from Spider is that it is okay to differ, that they're trade-offs, right? For some folks, they feel like it's okay to do certain things because the trade-off is okay. And some people are really, really strict about those trade-offs. So we'll talk a little bit about all of those things, but just wanted to kind of give you some background, because you may hear some back and forth between us where we may not always agree, and that's okay, and it's good. So we'll ask some questions and hopefully get to the bottom of some things. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So, Spider, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Dean.
Man, we're so excited to have you here. Nutrition is one of those things that a lot of people ask about. So having you here to talk about nutrition is really, really important to this group that's listening. So thanks for being here. Spider is also an accomplished runner and a triathlete himself. Matter of fact, he and I have raced many a times. And we've kind of gone 50-50 maybe. I think Spider's probably gotten me one or two more times than I've gotten him. But it's been...
You're pretty good, Dean.
It's been close. A couple of old guys enjoying some competition. But Spider's nursing an injury of his own right now. So tell us what happened there.
Well, I was taking my daughter out mountain biking, and I had a few other kids with me, and I was just going to let them kind of jump around, and one of the kids said, "Why don't you do this jump?" And I hadn't planned on it, so my shocks were locked out on my mountain bike, and I didn't even think about it. And I had done the jump many times before, but I was just going to let them have fun and be the parent and watch. And I was like, "Well, okay, I'll do it." And I kind of felt like I was getting a little too fast, so I pulled on my brakes, and I got my body in the wrong position. And so the front of my mountain bike landed front wheel first, and I flipped over and landed on my shoulder, broke my collarbone, broke part of my shoulder blade, the side part. It's called the acromion process, and then I tore a ligament that connects the shoulder blade to the collarbone.
Let that be a lesson to all of us. I think we talked about several weeks ago the time that I hurt myself trying to jump over a fence, because sometimes I feel like I'm 20 instead of the age I actually am. And sounds like you got caught up in the same thing.
Yeah, I've been one to always avoid things that could get me injured, because I enjoy running so much that I don't want something to affect running, and then I go and do this.
We've all done it. Recently in the headlines, we see that there was another high schooler that broke the 4-minute mile. It's amazing because it's happened several times in the last several years, but it hasn't happened all that often. And it really makes those guys back in the 60s, Ryan, Danielson, LaCory, those guys look really, really good, knowing they were running on dirt, running sub 4 minutes, compared with these guys today on these synthetic tracks that are so much faster. I once thought I would break the 4-minute mile when I was in college, and then my college career was kind of cut short, and so I never got close. But
I knew I'd never break the 4-minute mile.
I was going to say, you were more of a distance guy, right?
Yeah, definitely. 5K, 10K, marathon. The longer the distance was, the better I seemed to get.
Yeah, we'll have to share with you sometime the story of how Spider ran his first marathon. It was just kind of almost on a dare, like, hey, I think I'll do that. Like on Wednesday, he's deciding maybe I'll do that on Saturday. So it's and to run faster than I've ever run a marathon. He's definitely a distance guy. Hey, listen. You can send messages if you've got questions after this podcast. If you've got questions or topics that you want to see us cover, then you can send those to me at dean@runforgod.com. If you don't know about Run for God and you just happened up on this podcast, go to runforgod.com to learn a little bit more about what we're about and join Run Club while you're in there. But as always, we want to start off by talking about our proud sponsor, the world's greatest music platform, J Radio.
As a Christian runner, you might find it hard to decide what to listen to while you run. If you are looking for positive and Christian music that will help you keep your pace, check out the Radioactive station on the new J Radio. We'll take care of picking the music so that you can concentrate on your run. Plus, you can count on us to make sure that the music is uplifting and encouraging. Check out jradio.com or download the app in your app store.
Okay, so we're back, and Spider and I, as I said, are very different in our diet. To be frank with you, I know and acknowledge that I do not eat well. And Spider knows that too. I've confessed a lot of things to him. He has gotten me really excited about some of the things he's going to share today. And I've always been one to try something new. And I'm going to try almost exactly some of the things he's going to talk about today. So we'll have to let you know how that goes as it goes. But I am one of those guys who really likes to eat. And so I'm not sure.
Love to eat.
not sure how it's going to go. Before we get to the questions, I wanted to mention Spider has a beautiful little daughter. Is she 10?
She's 9.
She's 9. And is she going to be a runner?
We'll let time tell. She does swim on a swim team for a local high school called Baylor. They have a swim club, and she loves to bike. And she'll run with me. Like if we're walking on a trail, she'll let's run to this spot, and so I'll run with her. But I certainly haven't pushed her to running, even though that's my greatest love. Of things to do.
Well, maybe that's what she'll do. But even if she's a triathlete, because a lot of triathletes, they love the triathlon, but they really hate the run part. She may wind up being one of those. We talked a little bit about high school runners too. What's your opinion between your daughter and her age, and when should kids begin to start running, and when is it okay for them to run from a medical standpoint, you think?
I really think that running for fun sometimes is a good thing, no matter what age. But certainly not pushing a kid. I think maybe about 5th grade, 6th grade. In that time, I think starting joining a team for running is a good time. I personally didn't start until my sophomore year in high school, and it didn't stop me. So, kids can start later and still be good.
It's never too late to start, is it?
Never.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of folks want to push their kids, I think, early into whatever sport they want them to be in, and sometimes that works out okay. Tiger Woods started playing golf when he was 3. Yeah. I mean, and that worked out okay for him.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of kids out there that probably picked up a golf club when they were 3 that never played when they were in high school because they were just burned out by it. So, got to be careful with that. Got to make sure. One of the things that a father that I know does is his son is a triathlete, and at least once a year he sits down with him and he says, "Listen, I know you don't like for us to have this discussion, but I want to know if this is still what you want to do," because he wants him to understand that if he's going to push him a little bit, he wants it to be his choice and not the father's choice.
Yeah, you want to be supportive.
Yeah,
but not pushy. Yeah, and it's a hard balance, and you have to ask the kids. For example, sometimes my daughter would say, "I don't want to go to swim team today." Well, you've agreed to do this,
exactly,
and so I'm going to hold you responsible for doing this.
Yep.
And then when she goes, she has a blast.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad. Whereas if she was crying all the time or not having fun, because I sit in the stands and I watch her,
Yeah.
And she looks to be enjoying herself. And if she wasn't, if I could tell that, well,
might be different.
It's going to be different at the end of the season. Then we'll take a break, and we take a break from swimming anyway.
Yeah.
For at least a month a year, and she swims when she wants. And sometimes we'll go to the swimming pool and we'll just, play games.
Yeah,
we're not going to swim laps. We're going to play games.
Yeah, that's great.
And so it's just fun.
Well, we're going to get into the nutrition part here. One of the contentions that I have always had, and this comes from things like diets that say, okay, don't cut out all carbohydrates because carbohydrates are bad for you, and eat a ton of protein, which is really tough on your body. So that's kind of the world that I come from when I make this statement. But I've always said anything that tells you to cut out entire food groups is not a good diet. You have a little bit different take on that, and that's good. But I've never tried to stay away from meats. There's a lot of reasons for that. You're of a different mindset. Now, how do you look at that whole idea of cutting out food groups?
Well, I just look at it based on what effects does that have. For example, I don't eat meat, I don't eat dairy, I don't eat eggs, and I don't eat fish.
I know everybody's wondering right now, well, what do you eat?
Yeah. There are so many other things, so many different kinds of plants, so many different kinds of beans, so many different kinds of grains. And, I think I eat probably a far greater variety of foods than most Americans eat.
That's an interesting thought.
Despite me cutting all those things out that I just listed. And I kind of base what I do off of medical literature, really, or nutrition literature.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I don't eat meat. One reason is because processed meat, for example, is a Category 1 carcinogen. And this is the World Health Organization that has it listed. So here are two other things that are Category 1 carcinogens: cigarette smoking and asbestos.
Wow.
Now, let's do that, right? So that's processed meat. So that's your bologna, that's your sausage, that's your not hamburger, but your hot dog. Those are things that are processed meats. And so to me, that's a completely avoid for all reasons. Now, red meat, for example, is a Category 2 carcinogen, probable carcinogen. They haven't linked it to it yet. But the Category 1 is a definite carcinogen, and yet we look in our schools and there's a lot of processed meats. So we are feeding our children something that's going to cause cancer down the road. Is it going to cause cancer today, tomorrow? Probably not. But the repeated eating of these products are going to potentially lead to increased risk of cancer. So that's one reason. Another reason is because these things, eggs, fish, meat, dairy, some of them are high in saturated fat. Some of them produce a compound called trimethylamine. Trimethylamine gets absorbed in our body, and the bacteria in our intestines produce that. It gets in our body, and our liver converts it to trimethylamine oxide, or TMAO. And TMAO is directly correlated with plaque formation in our blood vessels.
Wow. So
we're increasing our risk of cardiovascular disease, which is going to be strokes and heart attacks. And these are the number one killers. So while I'm not going to tell you there's nothing good in meat, there is absolutely things that are good in meat. Zinc is in meat. There's protein in meat. Now, the protein in meat is harder to break down for our kidneys than protein from plant sources. But it's still a good form of protein.
Yeah.
And there are other things. Meat stores B12. As I eat plant-based, I call it whole food plant-based, I don't get a source of B12. So I have to take a supplement for B12.
Right.
So that's kind of the one thing that I would be deficient in if I didn't take that supplement.
It's interesting because when you hear people that do eat meat and people that eschew the whole idea of a plant-based diet, that the first thing they always say, and the first question I had for you was, where do you get your protein from? And what's interesting is the protein's not the problem. It's the B12 that if I was asking the right question, it would be, where do you get your B12 from? Right. Yeah. But this isn't something that you've always done, right? Because if I remember pre-race, I remember eating a cheeseburger with you before a race at some point in time, or you telling me that you ate them at one time.
Yeah.
So
I used to eat a cheeseburger and fries, and I'd put the fries on top of the cheeseburger, and I loved it.
Yeah.
It tasted so good. But the more I learned, the more I didn't want. The more I made a conscious choice, and the choice is mine. Right. I'm not going to tell you not to eat this or not to eat that. It's going to be a choice, and you're going to have to outweigh the risks and benefits for yourself. Mm-hmm. But I do think that it's a much healthier way to eat. Another thing with the meat products is there's heme iron in meat, but in plants it's non-heme iron. Meat sources or heme iron is linked to increased risk of cancer, increased risk of heart disease, increased risk of stroke, increased risk of diabetes type 2. So there's more reason not to eat. Yeah. But again, it's all a personal choice and what your goals are.
But for that person who maybe they have a family history of diabetes, I mean, I think that's something that might be important to understand.
Yeah, definitely. And I honestly, I think there are kind of two camps of people: the people that just don't care, and the people that just don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
And so we can't change the people that just don't care.
Yeah.
They have to change themselves, but we can bring knowledge to people that just don't know. And so hopefully today we'll be doing some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So your overall approach to nutrition is to eat things that basically are grown, that are, like you say. I mentioned to you, I said, well, I think the word vegan came up, and you're like, oh, I'm not vegan. I'm not. And I think that's an interesting description. So why are you say you're not vegan?
I mean, technically the word vegan just means I don't eat the things that I don't eat, right? But vegan, Oreo cookies are vegan. Or organic candies,
Oh, you're not telling me Oreo cookies aren't good for me now, are you?
Unfortunately, they're not. Oh. Neither are Nutter Butters.
Oh, no.
One of Dean's favorites.
I've been wounded.
So I try to eat as healthy as I can. So what I consider my diet is a whole food, plant-based diet. So I try to eat as much of the whole food that I can, instead of eating broken down versions. Now, again, it's all risk and benefit. Do I eat some bread? Yeah, it's not white bread. It's more like Ezekiel bread. It's still has some parts to break down. Still has some good nutrition in it, but I try to focus on eating the whole rather than the part.
Right.
Like, I'd rather have an orange than have orange juice. Orange juice is going to lift up your blood sugar. It's going to get absorbed quickly. While it does have a few vitamins and nutrients in it, you're missing all of the rest of it. You're missing the fiber from the orange. You're missing the other phytonutrients that you're not going to get when you're just juicing it.
Right. That's interesting. That's important. So I remember I talked with a lady one time who she owns a fitness company out in Colorado, and she talked about eating things as close to natural as you can find them, and that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So we talk a lot, especially as athletes, and particularly with diets, about the mix of protein and carbohydrates, and how many servings of vegetables we have in addition to the proteins and carbohydrates, and there's USDA recommendations for all of that. But what's your take on all that mix of things?
I don't know that I focus on percent of carbohydrates, percent of fats, percent of proteins. But I would say typically you're going to need more carbohydrates.
Yeah.
You still need fat. I mean, fat is essential. Our brain is mostly made of fat. Fat covers our nerve cells. So fat is very important. But do you want saturated fat, or do you want some good omega-3 fatty acid or omega-6 that's going to be anti-inflammatory and provide some additional benefit other than the fat? So again, I typically get my fat sources from nuts and seeds. My protein sources are going to be from the whole grains and beans, which are also going to provide some carbohydrates as well. And then there's a lot of protein in vegetables, percentage-wise,
Right.
of the fruit. But is 1 pound of meat and 1 pound of broccoli. It's going to be harder to eat the 1 pound of broccoli.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe, I don't know, but you're definitely going to get more protein from the pound of meat.
Yeah.
But the percentages are broccoli is pretty high in protein.
Well, of course, I've always said when it comes to protein versus carbohydrates, because that seems to be a thing that a lot of people focus on, is that 80% of a Kenyan's diet is almost 80% is carbohydrates. Yeah. And so everybody is always talking bad about carbohydrates, but it really depends on the carbohydrate.
It absolutely depends on the carbohydrate. Yep. Yeah. I mean, sugar is a carbohydrate. So let's eat a bunch of table sugar, right? Because that's going to do us very good. No, it's going to increase our insulin, which increases the inflammation in our body, which increases disease. Increases our likelihood of getting type 2 diabetes, as well as fat does the same thing. You take some oil and you spread that oil on your salad. Well, instead of getting the oil from a nut or the fat from a nut, you have other components to break it down. Your body has to work on that to get that fat in. The oil doesn't have to work at all. Yeah. And that actually does increase the insulin as well. So
yeah, well, and I mean, I don't know how many people that I've heard talk about how they gave up sugar and they felt so much better. I mean, processed sugar is a no-brainer in my estimation. Now, do I completely do away with processed sugar? I don't personally. I haven't. Let's say I haven't. Maybe I will, but I've heard that story over and over again.
Yeah, the sugar, for example, the same amount of sugar from a blueberry versus sucrose, table sugar, completely different on the body. It reacts completely different. So calorie per calorie, the same, but not the same the way the body works.
Right.
That amount of sugar in a blueberry does not lift your blood sugar up, again, because it's got these components that it needs to break down, and it also has other nutrients where sugar really doesn't.
Right. Well, we talked a little bit about fish. I mentioned talking with Dean Karnazes, and he's an ultramarathoner, and he's a pescatarian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who eats a lot of fish for a lot of that protein content. But you said something about that was interesting. What are your feelings on eating fish?
Again, that's one of the choices I've made, not to eat fish. Again, I do think there's good components in fish. There is protein. There is omega-3 fatty acids definitely in there that actually promote health. But algae has omega-3 fatty acid as well. There's different forms. Algae is going to have DHA. There's EPA, and then there's ALA. So a lot of foods I have, a lot of plants will have ALA. And that's like flax seeds and chia seeds and walnuts and olives, soybeans. Yeah. These things are going to have omega-3 fatty acids, so you can get them from another source without the negative effects that eating the meat or the fish, because I consider meat and fish to really kind of be the same thing, although different. But fish also produce that TMAO, and the TMAO leads to the increased risk of cardiovascular disease.
Wow. That's interesting. Let's take a break here, and we're going to go to and look at the Big Share app. If you want to share your story, we're all about stories with the Run Club and with Run for God, and we would love to hear your story. But so would J103 through their Big Share app. It's a great way for you to share your story to a website called Come On, Let's Go. If you don't know about Come On, Let's Go, go check out Come On, Let's Go.
There is power in people's stories.
What I did need and what I was begging for was a relationship that I didn't know that I needed, and only God could give it to me.
I started hearing all these stories that just made me realize this was the right move. I'm here to give these people hope through what Christ can do in their life.
Your story can help encourage others around the country, just like these stories have. You can walk through a simple process of sharing your story with the Big Share app. Download the Big Share app in your app store to start sharing hope with others.
All right, so welcome back. And one of the things that is important to understand about our bodies, and one of the things that we're actually seeing through this whole coronavirus thing, is that the people who are susceptible are the people whose immune systems are suppressed. A lot of the reason our immune systems are suppressed is because we're missing vitamins and minerals in our bodies. And so what about these nutritional deficiencies? What can you say about the people that are deficient in vitamin D, for example, and other things?
Well, the standard American diet does not do a good job of providing us proper nutrition. There's a survey that the Census Bureau does called the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and they look. One of the things they look at is nutritional deficiencies. And there is the recommended daily intake. There's a tolerable upper limit of having certain nutrients, and then there's something called the estimated average requirement for 50% of the population to be healthy.
Right.
Which shouldn't be our goal. Our goal should be
100%.
100% of the people in the United States, actually in the world, to be healthy.
Right.
And so they broke down different components and looked at the deficiencies to reach this 50% mark.
Right.
So just to reach the 50% mark, many B vitamins, iron, zinc are all still about 10% under this 50% goal.
Wow.
But it gets worse.
Oh, great.
Vitamin A, 43%.
Wow.
Still deficient. Just to reach 50%. Vitamin C, 39%. You would think vitamin C is kind of a no-brainer.
You would.
I mean, that definitely helps out with our immune system, as does vitamin A. And vitamin D, 94%.
Wow.
And again, that's not to reach 100%. That's only to reach 50.
Wow.
Vitamin E, about 88%. Vitamin K, 67%. And some of the minerals, calcium, 44%. Magnesium, 52%. And potassium, this one blows me away. 100%.
That's crazy.
Based on this NHANES National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, 100% don't meet the requirements of getting 50% of the people healthy. So basically, no one gets enough potassium in their diet.
Wow. Wow. What's the best source of potassium?
There's multiple great sources of potassium.
Bananas?
Bananas are a good source. Dried apricots is an excellent source. Many different kinds of beans will have 10, 15%, somewhere in that ballpark of recommended daily intake for potassium, just in one serving of beans. So one serving of beans is about a half a cup of cooked beans.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not really a big meal.
No, it's not.
And it's already getting 10 to 15%. It depends on which kind of beans.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's interesting, and it kind of drives the point home that we all probably could do. Well, I think we all know from a diet standpoint, most of us can do better than we do. But we let things get in the way. And we talked a little bit about this before we started this podcast, and you share with me some things that absolutely blew me away about how the big argument for people. There's two arguments for people not eating healthy, and one of them is my argument. My argument's not the cost, but my argument has always been the time required to cook the food, and it's just a lot easier to open up a package and eat something that's ready, or throw something in the microwave that's easier. That's just easier, right? So there's a time factor. But the other one is the cost. A lot of people feel like if I eat healthy, I have to spend a lot more money on food. But you shared with me some things yesterday about kind of where you shop and how you shop and what you buy, and it's not nearly as bad as we think.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. You can definitely eat healthy on a low budget. We talked yesterday or before this about where I shop. So my go-to store is called Aldi's.
Cheapest place on earth to buy groceries.
It is extremely cheap, and they have good quality products. Now, maybe not everything in there is top notch. I mean, I'm sure they have candy and different things in there. But one of the ways they make it cheap is by not hiring somebody to move the grocery carts in, is by having people do multiple jobs, is by having limited amounts of food. They don't have 20 brands of ketchup.
Right.
They have one or two maybe. But so I walk into Aldi's, and I get a big, humongous bag of kale, and it's like $2.99.
Wow. Kale's got all sorts of goodies in it.
It does. We talked about this before. 1 cup of kale is going to get your recommended daily allowance more than for vitamin K, vitamin C, and vitamin A,
wow.
as well as multiple other.
1 cup.
1 cup.
That's
1 cup.
Very little. That's not a salad.
Here's how I typically make my kale, because I don't really like kale in a salad. I mean, you can have a kale salad, but I don't really like it in a salad. I'll put kale in my smoothie.
Okay.
So that's one thing. But if I do make a smoothie, again, I'm throwing the kale in there. I'm throwing the banana in there. I'm throwing the orange. I'm throwing some berries in there. I may add one of my favorites called chlorella.
Yeah.
In there. And then maybe a carrot, maybe the stalk of a broccoli, because people don't eat the stalks, but the stalks have a lot of nutrition, and I'm not going to waste that.
Yeah.
So I throw that into the smoothie, and I blend it up and add water, and so I'm going to get the nutrients from that. So that's one way I do it. And the other way I eat kale is I heat up some water, and then I put it in the water for like 15 seconds, 30 seconds. It starts to turn bright green. It's kind of a drab green initially. It starts to turn bright green and pull it right out of the water. That is allowing the nutrients to be increased, to be released and absorbed better.
Wow.
And then I put some pepper on it. I put some garlic powder on it, and then I eat it.
Wow.
And it tastes a lot better when it's a little more soft.
Yeah.
That's the two basic ways I eat my kale.
That's interesting, and again, this idea we've got to get people away from the idea of it's too expensive to eat healthy.
Yeah,
because not only the kale, you mentioned buying big bags of beans and other things.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah. There's some beans. There's 3 different kind of beans that I've gotten from Aldi's. I typically try to get organic, but we can't get organic in everything. And they have a fairly significant amount of organic foods there. It's really awesome that they have all that.
Well, let me say this, just for everybody out there. We're way better off getting something non-organic that we know is good for us and it's non-organic than to say, well, I'm just not going to eat that if I can't find it in organic fashion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's better, non-organic kale or not eating kale? It's non-organic kale.
Right.
And you can always wash. Typically when I wash something, I'm going to put it in salt water. Salt water is the cheapest way. You can 49 cents for a big thing of salt at Aldi's.
Yeah.
And I've used that multiple times to clean off my apples or to clean the kale off or whatever fruit or vegetable I'm trying to clean.
That's interesting.
But So there is that. There's here's an example of how cheap all these is. Avocados is one of the things that I choose to eat that's high in fat and other nutrients. And 49 cents the other day. I got 6 avocados, 49 cents each. And I shop some at Whole Foods too. So I went to Whole Foods. I walk in the door, and one of the first things I see in the first little rack is avocados. $1.99.
Wow.
Each.
What a difference.
What? That's right. What a difference. Yeah. I mean, and they weren't organic either. They were still not conventional, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. Wow.
So I got 6 avocados for less than for 1.5, basically. So definitely it's cheap. We talked about peanut butter, a good source of protein. Well, if you look on the Jif or the Peter Pan peanut butter, you look on it, it's got added palm oil or some other sort of oil, and then it's got added sugar in there.
Yeah. Yep.
And Aldi's has organic peanut butter, probably similar in cost to the name brand, maybe cheaper. I don't buy peanut butter unless it's, well, honestly, at Aldi's. Organic peanut butter, it had peanuts and sea salt.
Wow.
That's it.
So that's one of the things that you've talked about is reading labels and understanding that sometimes just because something looks good on the outside, just on the outside label, it looks like it's really good and healthy. But then you go and you look, and there's all these words on here that I can't pronounce.
Yeah, if you can't pronounce a word on the package, don't buy it. There's things like coloring, Blue Lake number 5 or red number 40, yellow number this. Don't get those things.
Yeah.
If it looks like it's something natural and doesn't have added oil, doesn't have added sugar, probably safe to get. So the things on a label that I would look at, not as the nutritional value of each thing. I wouldn't look at how many carbs, how many protein, how many grams of fat is in this. I would look at the ingredient list.
And again, it goes back to how close is that ingredient list to its original form.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah.
I've fallen victim to that too. We went to Whole Foods. I take my daughter to Whole Foods rather than going out to a restaurant after swim practice sometimes. And so we went into Whole Foods, and I asked her if she wanted a drink. And I try to get some sort of smoothie instead of juice. But I could get water or something like that too. But when I got that juice, I didn't pay attention. I didn't read the label that day. And then as she's drinking it, I start reading the label, and I'm like, this has 23 grams of added sugar.
Wow. Yeah.
What?
Which is not unusual.
No, and it's not. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes in this NHANES data that the Census Bureau did, they say many adults and children eat greater than 25% of their calories from added sugar.
Wow.
You wonder why we're so nutrient deficient?
That's nuts. That's nuts. Well, it's not nuts. We don't have enough nuts. That's the problem.
Nuts will lower your cholesterol.
The nuts, the fatty thing, lowers your cholesterol.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is it's
proven.
Yeah, and that's interesting.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. So, what about a lot of our audience, our folks? We're all getting older, and as we get older, I'm 54 years old now. I'm going to be 55 pretty soon, and
new age group.
Yeah, new age group. Yeah, woo! But the idea of I've noticed my body is just different today than it was just actually 5 years ago. It's a lot different, and the things that I eat and how it affects me. So, how do we change our diet as we get older to adapt to the fact we are getting older?
Well, I think trying to base, you can't change what you've done in the past, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. But you can change it for someone else. Example, if you have a kid, you can help to change their diet now so they don't have years and years of these increasing risk and increasing
of what
risk
Dean did
in fits, of bad diet.
Yeah,
that they're going to somehow have to adapt to later. But it's definitely never too late to change your diet and to try to eat healthier. As we age, we certainly take longer to recover from things, whether it's a hard workout or an injury.
Yeah.
But if you optimize your diet, you're going to be able to recover faster than you would have if your diet wasn't optimized.
Wow. So, but even let's say that I am eating healthy, and things are going. I'm doing a good job of eating things, but I'm getting older. Do my nutritional needs change as I get older at all, or is a healthy diet a healthy diet? Doesn't matter if you're 5 or 55.
Yeah, a healthy diet is definitely a healthy diet. There are different requirements for calories that you're going to need as when you're younger and your body's growing and different things like that. But overall, it's really not a change in diet per se. It's more a change in amount.
Yeah.
And so, if you've put on some weight over the years, well, you're going to try to, I don't think you need to calorie restrict. I'm not big on calorie restriction, calorie counting. I'm big on eating nutritiously, and then your body will lose the weight because you're not putting in that. It's called calorie density or nutrient density. You're not putting in that calorie heavy, lack of nutrition food, and that's kind of what I see part of the problem is. For example, 100 calories of canola oil, maybe like an eighth of a teaspoon.
Yeah.
100 calories of spinach is 14 and a half cups.
Wow.
What's going to fill up your stomach more? I mean, we're not going to eat 14 and a half cups of spinach, don't get me wrong. But it's just a relationship. Yeah. What's going to, if you're still hungry after eating some spinach, eat some more.
Yeah.
Eat another vegetable. Don't throw oil on top of it. And now you've kind of ruined your ability to lose those calories that you want. A calorie is not a calorie. People say, well, 100 calories of this is 100 calories of that. No, it has a completely different effect. If you eat that 100 calories, let's say kale. I'll use kale since we talked about kale earlier. 3 cups of kale is 100 calories. So you're telling me that if you start your meal with eating 3 cups of kale, 100 calories, that you're going to, or you eat that 100 calories of
oil that's barely going to coat your tongue.
Right. How much of your stomach's going to be filled? A lot more of it with that 3 cups of kale. And so you're not actually going to eat as much food. And that's one of the ways you can help to lose weight is you can preload with low calorie, nutrient dense foods. You can eat an apple, drink a glass of water.
We'll talk a little bit about that here in just a few minutes. Let's go ahead. We're going to take a break, and we're going to go to talking about becoming an instructor. If you have not become an instructor, we are looking for instructors. We're at that point now where things are starting to open back up. Classes are beginning to meet, and it's a great time. If you've never become an instructor, like Mitchell always says, it won't only change the lives of the people that you are teaching, but it'll change your life as well. So we would encourage you to go out there and look at becoming an instructor today.
If you've ever participated in any sport, you've probably met a great coach. Great coaches inspire us to do more than we ever thought possible. You can be the leader that helps others achieve things they never thought possible. You have the ability and the opportunity to be that person. All you need is a heart to help people and the ability to follow a plan. The Run for God 5K Challenge will come ready to help you inspire those around you. The step-by-step guide will direct you how to plan, pray, and train people both physically and spiritually. You can help them become more fit in their health and in their walk with Christ. Share your passion. Go to runforgod.com to find out how to inspire others to accomplish big things.
Okay, so we're back, and one of the things that we have talked about in the past is this. There's an app out there. It's a free app. It's called The Daily Dozen, right? Yep. By a doctor by the name of Dr. Greger. And I checked it out, and it's a very, very simple to use app. If you're looking for a plant-based diet, it's a great way to make sure that you're getting all the things that you need to do. Tell us more about that app and how you use it.
Yeah, Dr. Michael Greger is one of the experts in healthy nutritional diet and how it can improve your medical problems. And he has a website called nutritionfacts.org. But he puts out this app. One of the people that's live was affected by him made this app. It's very simple, called The Daily Dozen. And so it's basically these 12 foods that you need to focus on to obtain proper nutrition. And so it goes through a list of what you should have in your diet. And so, for example, it will say beans, and it'll have 3 little check boxes because you should have 3 servings of beans per day.
Right.
I think it's about 96 to 99% of people don't get enough beans in a day. And then it'll have whole grains, and it'll have 3 check boxes for that. So as you're using this app, you can pull it up at any point in the day. You have a meal, and you can say, "Oh, I ate 1 serving of beans. I ate 1 serving of whole grains. I ate an orange." I'll click that off. So it's a really simple thing. So that's just the first page. And then there's something in the corner, the upper right-hand corner of the screen that says 21 tweaks. And those 21 tweaks are 21 ways, 21 things you can do to help yourself lose weight.
Wow.
That are all based on nutrition and based on literature. Peer-reviewed literature that is usually placebo-controlled trials.
Good studies.
Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing, some of that stuff, I looked at it. It's really simple. And I've never heard this before, but one of it says to drink a glass of water before you start eating. That makes so much sense when you think about it, but I've never heard it before, and I've never thought about it before.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, how many calories are you going to get from the water? None. And what that's going to do is it's going to fill up your stomach partially to help you eat less.
Yeah.
And the same with that.
Eating an apple.
Preloading with low calorie food. So you eat that apple or you eat that salad. Again, don't throw the oil on it or the ranch dressing or the dressing that I use and is recommended is some sort of vinegar. I use balsamic vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar. Heck, you can you can buy a big bottle of vinegar and throw a little bit, throw a tablespoon on there. And that is actually one of the ways to help lose weight as well is drink vinegar. Now, don't drink the vinegar. Don't pour it in your mouth because it's going to burn your throat. I ate apple cider vinegar once, and I should have put it in water or something. It was not smart.
I tried taking a shot of apple cider vinegar every morning once. I did it for about a month.
You have to add water,
man. Oh man,
or something. But if you put it on a salad, it kind of breaks that apart. And what that does is it increases this. It's called AMPK. It increases AMPK to boost your metabolism up to burn more calories.
So even if you don't change your activity level?
Even if you don't change your activity whatsoever, it's been studied. Though they had the same diet, 2 groups, same diet. One of them had the vinegar and one of them didn't.
Wow.
And it was proven to lose more weight. Other simple things, like you said, very simple things.
Mm-hmm.
Garlic powder. I think it's a quarter teaspoon of garlic powder a day. Black seeds, or they're also called black cumin seeds, or even cumin, the spice. Ginger, the spice. Just simple things that you can add to something. Put the black cumin seeds on your salad. Grind them up if you want. Make it like pepper. Add the ginger to a smoothie. If you do a smoothie, again, I recommend drinking it slowly over 30 minutes. That way, it doesn't act like that oil that you take in, because you've already broken down the parts of it. So drink it slowly. That way, it doesn't have the effect. But then you also get all the nutrition, and that's another thing that's on this list is 20 minutes. Take 20 minutes to eat, and I am notoriously bad with that.
Me too.
I grew up. We ate fast. I work in the ER. You go in the break room real quick, and you shove something in your mouth. It takes you 2 minutes to eat, and you got to go back to work. So I've been bad with that, and that's something that I need to do. Again, my goal is not to lose weight, and it never has been. But I'm about 154 pounds, almost 6'3", so I'm pretty trim. My BMI is 19. Yeah. But even when I completely went over to this plant-based diet, it was a gradual thing. At first, I just decreased some meat and ate pastured eggs and pastured grass-fed beef, or whatever. And then I learned more, and then I went to this solidly whole food plant-based, and I actually lost weight.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it was a problem for me, because then I start feeling fatigued because I've lost weight, and it's not healthy for me to lose weight.
Yeah.
And so what I did is just incorporated some of those very nutritional nuts and seeds, because they are a little more high calorie. So if you're following this diet, and if you look on that app from Dr. Greger, it has 1 serving of nuts and seeds a day.
Yeah.
Now, if you're an athlete, if you are struggling maintaining your weight, what I did was increase the nut and seed consumption. I'd put it more on my salad, and that's a great way to do it, because it helps the vitamin D, E, K, and A be absorbed that are in some plants, because those are fat soluble, and you have the fats in the nuts.
It's all good stuff. If you're looking for a way to lose weight, this sounds like a really good app. Now, you're going to need to be on a plant-based type diet to do it. But even if you decide, I just don't think I can go that far, there's some really good tips on there as to things you can do to help you lose weight.
Definitely. And again, for me, it was a process, right? And so if you just do something different, your health is going to be better.
Yep.
And it may not be optimal yet, but maybe you start working your way to there. Now, there's been some studies on if you stop and you just say, I'm going to just do this diet. And to me, a diet is truly a lifestyle. It can't be something I'm going to do, like I'm going to go on the paleo diet to lose 15 pounds, or the keto diet to lose 15 pounds, and then once I lose my 15 pounds, I'm going to be off that diet. You haven't changed your behaviors.
Right.
And that's the thing that's going to make the difference. Changing your behaviors. You want to do something extra that's going to help your lifestyle. Well, eat some oatmeal in the morning, and throw some maybe some nuts in there, or definitely throw some spices in there. I throw ginger and cinnamon and those sort of things in my oatmeal every morning. And maybe add a salad.
Yeah.
Do that preload once, and don't throw that fatty salad dressing on there. And just do those 2 things, right?
And make a big difference.
It'll make a big difference.
Yep. Well, we're getting close to being out of time for this week. Just a couple of things I wanted to share. First, we always share a why running is so awesome story, and this week I wanted to share this. Running friends. Running friends are great, right? I'm here with my friend Spider. There's nothing quite like the friendship between runners. We love to share stories. We love to talk about it. For he and I, we love to talk about the old days and the things we did in the cross-country days. But we also like to rehash some of the races that when we run together and we run on the same team and we get through, and it's just fun just to rehash all of that stuff. There's nothing like your running family. And it's interesting because it takes somebody like, with Spider being a doctor, he and I are on completely different wavelengths with what I do and what he does, professionally, but from a running standpoint, we are the same. Yeah. And I think that's neat. It takes people who are way different and gives them a common bond. So that's really cool. Our motivational thought for the week, which is a time-appropriate quote, is, I run because I really like food. I don't know who said it. I couldn't find the author of that quote, but a lot of people have said that, including me. So, Spider, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, hopefully, maybe would you come back next week?
I sure will.
All right, great. Hey, listen, if you haven't joined Run Club, I mentioned it before, join Run Club. We want to have you as part of our club. It's a great way to support others and a great way to be supported and to be motivated to get out there and to run. Sometimes running is hard. There are those days for every one of us where we have a difficult time getting up and getting outside and going to run. This will help keep you motivated. You get things in written form, in audio form, in video form. There's running plans. Every month we have a new challenge. Our challenge this month is a prayer walk, which is a little bit different. We've had a plank challenge. We had a 100K challenge. So we have a lot. It's a lot of different things. So we like to keep things different and fresh all the time. And we hope that you'll join us. You get access to a certified coach on Thursdays. We have a Facebook Live session. We'll be having a Facebook Live session this Thursday. So come and join us for that. You get discounts on Run for God gear, and you get all of that for just $9.97 a month. I mean, good heavens, $9.97 a month. If you go to Starbucks, all you got to do is not go to Starbucks once a week, and that'll way more than pay for your Run Club subscription. So check it out at runforgod.com and join us. If you've enjoyed this, whether you're watching it on YouTube or this is a podcast or whatever, go and rate us and give us a 5-star review, because you know that helps us. So give us feedback. If there are some things you'd like to see us do differently, tell us what that is. We want to do things that are beneficial to you. So if you give us feedback, we can do that. So like, subscribe, get notifications, do all of those things, and may God bless every step of every run. Now, go out there and shine your light.
For more information about the Run for God ministry, go to runforgod.com. If you have questions about your salvation, click on the Peace with God tab. There's nothing more important. Thanks for joining us today.